Welcome to 216, a Link to the Past Randomizer podcast with Fear Agent. I am your host, Fear Agent. Thank you for joining me for episode number 6. Today on the show, we've got Clearmouse. Really fun conversation. Laughed probably more than I have laughed with any of my guests. We just have a really good time. So it's gonna be a fun one. So lots of stuff going on right now. We're like heading into the top 8 of the main tournament. So not many people left in the tournament. We've got P-Train versus either Scholzer or Moogle. And right now, Scholzer's up 1 game on Moogle. P-Train will be facing off the winner of that match. And next up is GFE versus Zelga in the top 8. GFE making quite a run. I think this is the best he's ever done in the main tournament. I'm really proud of him and all that he's done. It's pretty exciting for GFE to make it this far. We talked in the P-Train episode about him and Sabotenor and P-Train's kind of bad luck in the league, not ever making the playoffs in the 4 seasons of the league. But both P-Train and GFE making quite the run in this main tournament. And if P-Train can get past the winner of Scholzer, Moogle, and GFE can get past Zelga, we're going to have a little bit of a race between the Sphere Affinity members. So that could be a lot of fun. Though GFE does have to get past Zelga, who, if you've listened to the show, is my pick to win this tournament. So Zelga is not an easy out for GFE. Should be a fun series. I think that's going to start on Monday. And maybe the matchup of the tournament, we've got Andy versus Airy in the top 8. Now, this could be the finals of any other main tournament, but this is the top 8. And only one of them is moving on. Who? That's anyone's guess. But that's quite the matchup. Down on the other side of the bracket, we've got Obscure versus Humbug still going on, and then Chimo versus Zero Rush, and they're tied right now, 1-1. So they'll be playing a game 3 here soon, and it might have already happened by the time this is out. And one of those two will be moving on to the top 8 to take on either Obscure or Humbug. So a lot of exciting tournament action going on right now. Cross Keys tournament's coming up July 5th. 177 entrants already, a total of 196. So if you're looking to join the Cross Keys tournament, there's still a little bit of time left. Get in and get to that 196 cap. Swiss round for the first round, which is always fun. For matchups, they go by last year's Cross Keys tournament record, I believe. And then they use the ladder results, and then the rest is just random. So I think who won it last year? Goomba maybe would be like the top seed if he'd won it. I'm not 100% sure. I think he did. I think Goomba won. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe it was Lynn. Maybe it was somebody won it. But they would be the top seed, and then if you did well, top 16 obviously in last year's tournament, you would be ranked higher. And if you haven't raced Cross Keys on the ladder or won in the main tournament, you'd be randomly paired against someone ranked a bit higher. But the Swiss rounds are always a lot of fun. I actually prefer them than the qualifiers. Be interesting to see if the main tournament could somehow introduce Swiss into it. I know we had like 300 or something entrants. And I know there's like a bad taste left in everyone's mouth after the 512 tournament from early 2018. I know from the admin side, they were not happy with how everything was ran. A lot of it had to do with the challenges of Challenge, which they used to run the tournament. Cross Keys tournament is using Start GG, I think, which was previously Smash GG. I don't know. Either way, I think it'd be interesting to see the main tournament get rid of the qualifiers next year and use like a Swiss or something. But I don't know if they're looking at, I have no idea what their plans are. I'm not a big fan of the qualifying system for the main tournament. You know, Swiss is a commitment for sure, but I think if it's done properly, I think it could go pretty well. A lot of us weren't around for the 512 main tournament. I hadn't started racing or even knew what Rando was when it started. But I did catch a bunch of it on YouTube. And it looked like a giant mess. Things have evolved though. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the admins in the main tournament can figure something out. Because it'd be nice. I know I'm not the only one saying this. It'd be nice to get rid of the qualifiers. Qualifiers I don't think they're the best way to judge who should be in the tournament. Racing qualifiers, when you're racing, a pool of 80 to 100 runners, is just so much different than one-on-one racing. And I don't know, it's just not the same. You don't route the same if you're looking to qualify high in a qualifier. So it's hard to say that it really properly judges the top 128 members of the main tournament. And this is coming from someone that qualified. So I'm not saying this is like, I didn't get in, so please change it to meet my qualifications. That's not what it is. I just think it'd be better to run a Swiss. So maybe we can convince the admins to run some sort of Swiss for next year. We still have League later this year. Cross keys, of course, is coming up. Casual Boots tournament's going to happen. Lots of tournaments, but the main tournament's always obviously it's the main tournament for a reason. So no idea what they're going to do next year, but maybe we can press them a little bit nicely, kindly suggest that maybe we could do something else. I've been playing a lot more rando, been playing a lot of cross keys, trying to get ready for the cross keys tournament coming up. Cross keys is the mode that I just have the most fun with. And I talk about tilt on this show a lot. It's a question I ask every guest, and we kind of get into handling tilt, and everyone's got their own ways of handling it. And I've kind of come to a conclusion this last week that it's not losing necessarily that I have a hard time with, or that can cause any sort of like real tilt, because like a loss happens and it's not that big of a deal. I think the thing that's kind of gotten me is the last locationing, right? So rando is like a series of weighted coin flips. Do you go do 4 checks, or do you go do the 1 check? Do you do the place that has 7 checks, or do you go to the crystal dungeon, right? Like there's just a lot of like weighted coin flips. And when you lose all of those coin flips, at least for me, and this is me talking for me, I think that's when the tilt starts to set in. It's when you make the right call, you can't make the right decision. So it's not like you're losing a race. You've lost all of the races inside the race. You've lost all of the pieces. And I think the culmination of that, can cause me at least to tilt pretty hard. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm like really tilted about like, damn, I really just last locationed this place or this item. And when I mean last location, I literally mean like there was literally nothing left. And when that happens a lot, and especially in cross keys, when the races can go 2.5 hours or whatever, it can wear you down. And so I feel a little worn down right now, just because it happened so often. I think another thing is that I know I'm not the only one that does this, is I imagine my opponent God routed. Every seed I've played, I always imagined, oh, my opponent did this or my opponent did that. And it's almost like I defeat myself a little bit more. And so I'm last locationing and imagining that my opponent God routed. Now, when you're playing Gamachu, that is actually true. You last locate and he hit the God route. So I think that also has played into to where I'm at mentally right now. But I know that's like something that I have to continually correct, is just play my game, make the best decisions that I can make, and not worry about what my opponent did or has done. Not imagine them God routing. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes you last locate and you think, well, because I last located, I have to skip everything. And then it ends up working. I don't know how to do that. If someone can tell me how to do that, let me know what the secret is. But I have yet to figure that one out. Still going to play the game. Still, for the most part, enjoying it, but a little bit of a downswing. Regardless of how I'm feeling about the game, I do have an excellent guest on my show who will make me feel better about playing this game because she's so awesome. Today's guest is Clearmouse, and we talk a lot about commentary, and we talk a lot about her role in the game as someone who doesn't race but enjoys the game, and her role as a commentator moderator for the main tournament. We cover a lot of stuff. And all the stuff we cover, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughing in this episode because we have a good time together. We've done a lot of commentary together in the past, and she's one of the best. So really excited about this episode, and for everyone to kind of like learn a little bit more about Clearmouse, because she's so good at shining the spotlights on the runners, which obviously they deserve for all the work they put in the game and stuff. But she puts a lot into this community, And it's cool to find out more about her and kind of her history with the game. So, yeah, let's get into it. All right, Clearmouse. So I think everyone knows you that has listened to any or watched any restream in the last three or 4 years, because you're a commentator. And not only are you a commentator, you're like the commentator. You commentate a ton of matches, and you're also some sort of admin or mod leader or something for the main tournament. They have so many roles in the main tournament that I don't really know the difference between like a leader or a mod or an admin or also something, but you're there. Anyways, commentary.
That's right. I apparently do commentary.
You are commentary. Like when I think of commentary, I think Clearmouse, because you do so much commentary. So, but you don't play competitive rando. You commentate competitive rando. So the real question is, why haven't you strapped up the shoes and put the boots on and started dashing through Hyrule with us?
Well, first off, I guess, are there booths to be found in some of these tournaments? Is my first question.
Yeah.
but setting some of that stuff aside, this is actually kind of a good question, and it's so like. I guess like before I even like started commentary, I was certainly a much like very, very, occasional casual player. Like, in fact, I don't actually remember how I even, I guess, like got started watching rando, but it certainly like, it was just a very kind of like cursory thing for me, as in like I think I apparently stumbled upon speed gaming. I must have at some point, saw some Link to the Past, something going on, and like I couldn't even tell you like the names of the racers that I was watching, but I did kind of follow along because Link to the Past was certainly probably not my necessarily like all-time favorite game, but it was certainly very up there. Had a lot of great memories from playing it when I was a kid, and but then like the whole concept of rando, it was really fascinating, right? Because certainly especially from like the speed game, speed running stuff, it can certainly, while it's still really interesting to see, what people are really capable of playing the game really fast, it can, tend to get, a little bit stale. And then the randomizer, right, just, every rando seed is different, right? You get, these little puzzles trying to do routing. And then so eventually the cross keys, setting kind of emerged, and that was like to me super fascinating. It's like, oh, not only the keys shuffle, so the entrances as well. And so I was like, oh, okay, so let me go try and pick up a couple cross key seed. And granted, like it was really hard, like really really hard for me to sure. But it was a ton of fun as well. And so I know that I think most people, especially streamers, right, they they use a map tracker, and and then it's actually a really great experience, especially for people who maybe pop into the stream, can see exactly where a person is. And I just like never got used to it. So I would always play cross key seeds and like any other kind of like casual seeds, just like with just with the game, right? Just with the game controller and everything. And I would just remember everything. So it was even harder, like for me to keep track of like everything and all the entrances. So yeah. And so like, eventually I was like, okay, well, I do kind of watch rando, and let me see if I can find some cross keys players to watch. And maybe to learn, right? Because surely there are lots of people who play this game who run this game very competitively, and I kind of wanted to see like what they're doing, what their thought processes are, and that's kind of how I ended up getting started basically. To kind of like that was a very long tangent, I guess. That
was not long or a tangent. That was all that was short and to the point. Actually, kind of want to go a little bit deeper. So let's talk a little bit about. You said you played Link to the Past as a kid. Did you grow up a gamer? Did you have like a certain set of games or a console or even PC or something that you were playing the most? What was your favorite as a kid?
Oh man, that's also a good question. Trying to kind of dig up some memories. So I guess my earliest memories of playing video games, I guess, was with my dad. And in fact, actually, I think when we first got the SNES, or sorry, the NES, actually, not even. I remember being really scared because like I couldn't even play like a Mario level because I was worried because I thought like if Mario died, like I would also die. So like I was always so scared. So I would have made my dad like whenever I get to like a very difficult part, like I was like, Dad, you have to go play this for me, And so like he would kind of swoop in and be the hero, right? And so those are probably my earliest memories. I also remember I played.
Did you overcome that? Did you overcome that fear of dying? Okay, good. Okay, that's good.
Eventually I got past that. But it's just like Mario, Zelda, kind of like the more classic games, right? You kind of got I guess like hooked on this, and I also remember there's another memory of my dad. So I really apparently there was like a very brief phase where I was really into Super Mario Kart, and wasn't really like great or anything, but I just really enjoyed I guess like racing, especially I guess my dad. And so I think he used this to his advantage because he was like, okay, so if you eat your vegetables like for tonight for dinner, then I'll race you, like one cup or whatever it is. And nice. I was like, okay, well apparently it worked, right? So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So specifically the Link to the Past, I think I remember I think I went to like my uncle's place, and a part of his I guess job was to babysit me, and what's the easiest way, right, is to just hand me a controller, whether or not it was actually plugged in or not, I don't know, but that's I have memories of him playing Link to the Past, and I remember thinking, oh yeah, this is like a really fun game. And eventually I think we kind of like moved out of state, but I had for some reason this memory. And I was like, I kind of wanted to play this game again. So and at some point, my uncle was nice enough to like send me over his cart of Link to the Past, and that's kind of like how I got my hands on it. I didn't even have an opportunity to, I guess, go buy it. So yeah, and then I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. So as long as I've known you, and I think one of my fascinations with people in this community like you that don't race competitively but are still a big part of the community is how that happens, right? Like it's easy to see people like, oh, I see the game, I want to play it, now I'm racing competitively, but you've chosen not to. Were you streaming? Have you streamed before? What was your role with like Twitch? Were you watching a lot of stuff before Link to the Past? I know GDQs kind of play into people's first experiences. Was that something for you, or was it something else?
No, I mean, so yeah, there are actually a couple of, I guess, like different aspects. Yeah. So like, and yeah, so I definitely was, like a just a very casual viewer of GQ. I definitely liked a lot of speed runs. And I think a lot of people in like within this community, right, have stories of like watching Andy and Christos at some GDQ. I don't remember when, they're doing like the swordless, race. Yeah. And it was certainly, just really exciting. And I remember having like a lot of memories, I guess, like from there. But I was like, oh, this actually looks, really cool. And actually to kind of go back to like the beginning of the Cross Keys story, right? So I didn't actually like I guess I realized that there was like a racing scene, but like one, I guess I'm not too much, I guess, into like competitive video game stuff, I guess, to begin with. I just kind of like, it's definitely very much more of an observer, for like speed runs or whatnot. But I guess specifically for Cross Keys, right, I wanted to like try and get better. Not necessarily into like race or anything, but I just wanted to, not struggle so much, with every single scene. And so part of that, then I was then trying to find streamers who I could basically learn stuff from. And it just happens to be, just because with Cross Keys kind of coming out, they started, I believe it was the 2019 Cross Keys tournament. And then I think it was restreamed over there like on CSR, but it was actually a really nice showcase, right? A lot of people, joined that. And so it was a really good showcase of like entrance. And then I happened to stumble upon Korek, who happened to win that tournament. But I did not, but I kind of maybe started in the tournament kind of midway through or something, right? I did do a little bit of like stream hopping just to kind of like see who the different streamers out there. But, Korek was like, his style in particular was, I thought, very like educational. Like in fact, I think I sat in his stream for like months before ever, because I definitely was not interested in I guess like any type of like interactions, right? I was just basically there to learn, to listen, to see what it was like. But you know, like his narration and the way that he streams was just very like it just fit, you know, my learning style really well, because he would do his own analysis. He would say, these are the things I'm going to go do. Then he also said that, okay, I'm not going to go do this because of, you know, all these other reasons. And I was like, oh, okay, this is so, you know, so I ended up learning like a ton of stuff from him. And plus he's just like a, you know, like a really like, you know, good around, like solid, you know, nice guy, right? You know, very friendly.
For sure.
And, you know, super chill. And then I also happened to hear him on Go Mode podcast. He was also doing, I think it was actually CrossFit was called Entrendo at the time or something. So some name that was not Crosskey's. But you know, like and Cowork was on there and he gave like such actually pretty good analysis, both of kind of like the competitive scene and, you know, what kind of like what type of different aspects of this, I guess, like Crosskey's kind of gave, you know, like the player aspect or like the player experience. And so like I, you know, wanted to, I guess, do more stuff, or I just want to kind of play cross keys, but nothing really, I guess, more competitively. But I guess like the more I watched, you know, Korek, and I guess like eventually also, by the way, I believe you also started up the league. And, you know, at some point, Cowork was talking about doing League Season 1, and he mentioned these two guys named Act the Boker and Gem041, and I was like, oh, there's some sort of league going on? Okay, well, I guess if, like, Cowork is friends with, you know, these two guys named Act and Gem, like, surely they must be okay too, right? So that's how I stumbled upon kind of, like, you know, their streams, and again, I just like, no interactions, just kind of sat and learn. And it kind of got to a point where I guess this was now summer probably of 2020. I eventually like, you know, broke down and, you know, said hi or something in a chat or two. So I think now maybe like 4 people, you know, in this community might actually know who, you know, like I think at this point, you know, people may have an inkling of like, you know, seeing my name in chat.
It took that long for you to start interacting with people in their chats? Wow.
Yeah,
it feels like you've been here longer than that. It feels like you've been here since the beginning.
No. In fact, I have no real like ties. In fact, I didn't have any real plans, right? Because I was just like, oh, okay, Crosskeys is very, you know, to me it's very casual. It's supposed to be, you know, fun, and especially at that time, it was just like supposed to be like I didn't even really get like the whole, you know, like Twitch audience, because mainly, like I said, I was just more of a, you know, observer, right? Just watcher, lurker, but then, you know, like these guys are also, you know, very like, you know, humanizing, right? You know, and it seems like, why not? Why don't you want to, you know, go talk to them? And so, you know, got to a point where, right, so I think 2020 summer, Sinak and Kern organized a spoiler lock tournament. And at some point, let's see, I think I remember it was at least Ak who joined, but I think there were maybe a couple other people that was kind of like part of that crowd. I would say like Gerda was there, and I'm trying to remember some of the other people, but so it got to a point where it was like, okay, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool to actually like talk to somebody like in, you know, with voice versus chat? And then, you know, right, so then like, so like it got to a point where I remember like people asking, you know, for volunteers, right? It's like, oh, you know, we need commentators and trackers. And I was like, oh, it didn't even like kind of occur to me that this was even going to be a thing, right? I was like, oh, okay, well, so actually this is how I got kind of got started with commentary. You know, and I remember Kern putting out a post saying like, you know, here's the commentary form. You know, if you don't have any experience doing commentary, you know, like, don't worry, like we'll just go do a mic check and make sure that, you know, you at least know something about the game. And specifically, I guess, there were a couple of reasons why I guess I was thinking about doing commentary. Was one is there definitely seems to be like some, I guess, like not enough commentators, I guess, for that tournament, because they're always looking for people. And then also like two, like, so this is technically like my, I guess, like reward, quote unquote, like for, you know, for me personally, was the commentators always got to talk to the racers after the race. And so I was like, okay, well, like this actually might not be a bad opportunity. So if I can maybe talk to, you know, somebody, like I think the initial intention was actually Ak, because that's who I remembered out of like that specific little group. I was like, okay, so maybe it's okay. I'll make a goal to see if I can be a commentator, and I'll see if I can commentate one of Axe matches, and then I can, like say hi to him, like at the end of the race.
Mhm.
That was kind of like the whole like,
Wow.
I just had one goal. That was it. So and actually, I was actually quite lucky because I almost actually got denied commentary. And it's not for any bad reason, but I'll tell you why.
Sure.
Okay, so Kern initially put out the application, saying that so if you don't have any commentator experience, don't worry, we'll just do a mic check and you'll make sure that everything at least it will be okay for now, right? So I was like, okay, so like eventually, thought about it, submitted the application form, and I was like, okay, worst case, like they'll just tell me no, right? And I'll just nothing's lost, and and that's it. So then Kern came back, and he DM'd me a couple days later. He's like, oh, hey, Clearmouse. So I noticed that you don't have any links of like your previous commentary. Like, do you mind giving me some? And I was like, I didn't realize I needed to, because I thought the application said, that if you don't need any previous commentary experience, and if you don't, you'll just do a mic check with me. And then he's like, oh no, I'm sorry, like that was actually from last year's form, we forgot to update it. We are gonna have to require like previous commentary experience.
Sure.
But he's like, but he's like, don't worry, like there are gonna be there's speaking dailies going on if you want to do that. And then once you do commentary, just feel free to give me the link, and then we could talk again. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's thanks for the suggestion. In my mind, I was definitely thinking like I'm not doing a daily commentary. So like, but so I didn't really think too much more of it until actually I think maybe it was like 1 to 2 weeks later or something like that. Kurt's like, hey, by the way, are you potentially still interested in doing trying out commentary? So we're actually going we're actually going to revise our policy in that if you want to, we'll give you the like commentary newbie. I forgot the exact role name, but he's like, but basically we'll give you that. We'll give you we'll pair you up with a veteran commentator, and then you just go sign up for whatever race. And then that kind of like gives us and you a chance to try out commentary. We'll give you some feedback. And so. Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, I can try that. So he gave me the role, and then Kern, of course, me and Kern had like 7 different documents, right, on how to commentate and how to not commentate. Yeah, so so of course, being a little bit nervous, for the first time, read through all the documents like through and through. I also did some like practice. I mean, as much practice as you can get, I guess. Like because basically you just turn on a race, put it on mute, and then just see if I can talk about the race.
Sure.
Right? And. So then, after that, I got what is my first race? Actually, maybe I should look this up.
It was before the spoiler log tournament. Do you remember who you did commentary with?
Oh yeah. No. So no, it was during the spoiler log tournament. My very first match was for Oasi versus Verts. It was Sunday, June 7th. 7:15 p.m. I have all this written down. On Speed Gaming 6, by the way. With Nihon Tiger.
Yeah.
Dude, I was so happy. I was like, oh my god, please don't give me like a major channel so no one has to listen to me. And I'm pretty sure I like maybe for that entire commentary I probably said like I don't know. I was probably active for like 15 to 20% of like actual words spoken during that match or something like that. And I was so nervous. I didn't even know how to use like Discord for a voice call. It was it was such a hop. It was quite the experience. But Nihon Tiger was very very nice. He definitely got me through.
That's a great first person to have as your commentary partner.
Oh yeah,
because he's awesome. He's an awesome comm, and he's just like a genuinely nice person too to comm with. So he brings like a calming presence into the booth, which is really nice. I honestly I'm stunned right now because I feel like in my mind you've been doing commentary since like the beginning of before Rando was even a thing. But now you're telling me that it was first in 2020. That just completely blows my mind. Yeah, cross keys. You mentioned a lot about cross keys bringing you in. And in 2019, it's hard to believe this now in 2022 with where Cross Keys is. And last year we had like a huge Cross Keys tournament, and Cross Keys is like a major aspect that everyone plays. I think the ladder has a lot to do with that. The league, and of course the main tournaments, or the big main cross keys tournament. But in 2019, cross keys was so fresh and new and scary. Like I remember, I was like in the first season of the league, we put cross keys in it, and I had to find team members that would run cross keys because I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm ever playing that stupid mode. So it's interesting that we're still going to get back to my first question, but it's interesting that that cross keys was the thing that's kind of like hooked you more than anything. Oh
yeah. Because it was just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's so hard to follow, though. So for someone watching, I guess, did it make things easier then to follow because it's so complex? Since that was like your main thing, or
so that's also a good question. I'm trying to actually remember back to some of like the commentary I was listening to on CSR, and I will say that there was probably quite a bit of variance. I guess like with cross keys commentators, especially back in like 2019, and so
it's also funny that but sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned that when you signed up for the spoiler tournament that they weren't necessarily letting new people in, and then they kind of without experience in. I remember those days when we're very selective about who does comms or who can do comms. Because like in 2018, 2019, it was like the best of the best as far as the runners were concerned. We're doing the comms. So you had like top tier runners doing comms, and then we had the top tier runners and commentators. So there's a whole group. And now it's like, can we get anyone to do comms? It's just so different. It's so different now in 2022. Sorry to interrupt that, but it's just totally funny how it's changed in just a couple of years from when you signed up. Because now it's like, well, last year for the league for the season 4, it was like, do you want to do comms? Here, click this button, and you can. You didn't have to fill out any forms or do anything like that. So. But yeah, back to cross keys. Sorry.
Oh no. I mean no. It's like I think it's good kind of like perspective for me, because I certainly remember like before my time, people were talking about like there were some definitely like really really good commentators, and I'm probably and again like even when I was casually watching, like I certainly probably have memories of oh man, I really enjoyed listening to this pair. I really remember learning a lot, or like listening. And there definitely been times when I was like, I don't want to listen to this person. So do like a restream. And so I guess to some extent, like that was also my secondary goal. For commentary is like, okay, I don't want to have people like when they see my name, like. Honestly, I was like, best case, like they see it and they're like, oh, okay, like I don't know who this person is, but like whatever. And then, if it was the worst case, I would be like, they see this person and, they see my name, and then they'd be like, oh, like, and they just, like mute the stream or just like turn it off or, like go watch, and it's just like, I just do not want that to happen. And so.
So you don't have like this itch to compete then, right? Is that what's preventing you from playing competitively, or do you play seeds on your own when you're?
It's been quite a long time since I guess I played a full seed, I guess, on my own. But I guess it was mainly also right. So maybe there are two aspects of this. One is like I think I just never have been like much like of a competitive racer, I guess, in general. So like Rando, while it was a very big racing scene, it really didn't like it didn't really to me it wasn't very anything different. And just in terms of, it was something that, especially for hobbies, I guess I try and keep things a bit more casual just because it's supposed to be, fun, right?
Right.
And yeah, and like, I know, imagine having fun in random. but I like, to me, like, especially like racing and being a lot of under, I guess, like, pressure, especially, it's that kind of specific pressure, isn't very much fun. At least like, certainly not at a point where, where I was, right? It didn't feel like I could be competitive. Or anything like that. But I mean, to me, it was like, I would just like to go play a seed. I don't want like the added pressure of maybe thinking about like, oh, where the heck is my opponent? Especially, where I was, probably anybody, could beat me. And then it would just be like, well, this isn't very much fun. I just kind of wanted to, enjoy the seed or just like, try and solve this puzzle, for myself, right? Type of thing.
So, yeah. So what you're telling me is your fear of dying in Super Mario Brothers has evolved into something new, into ALTTPR, where it's not, you kind of still have that fear of dying, but now it's the fear of having to even compete.
Well, so I don't have my dad to like hand the controller over to and like beat this level for me. Right?
That's true. Yeah, that didn't evolve with it. So what is it about the game? What keeps you going? Because a lot of people come and go, mostly that play the game, but there's a handful of people that are, in deep in the community that aren't playing, and you being one of them. What keeps you here?
So that is there's actually kind of there's a okay, so the short answer, the short version of the answer is just the community of people. And of course, the longer one is that, like, initially I think, right, like I wanted to do commentary, I guess, mainly to, kind of like support the people, that have been, extremely kind to me. And, that initial group, right, or person, I guess, kind of like grew, as time, right? So, like I said, my main entry point in this case was Korek. It's pretty supportive, Once I eventually started, talking in his chat, he was, very nice, answered, basically every single question I have. Like I said, I was just kind of there to like try and learn about, cross keys and, rando and racing.
Yeah.
Eventually that grew to, Ak and Jem and Prime, there's Kyung, Gerdo, Eri, Thelaine, I mean, I don't want to make like a laundry list of people. I also don't want to name, leave people out, but it's just like, when, and I didn't know in this case, like, how I could, I guess, like necessarily like, express some support, other than, I guess like, saying like, go and win this race, so, and it certainly seemed like, I wanted to, I guess, like give people, I would like to always try and support the community members, and try and put them in the best possible light. And one of the ones, especially, I guess, is especially, when they're all these tournaments, right, tend to get, restreamed. Not only, of course, if I could be just like a voice to help give them a restream to begin with, kind of depending on like the availability, but also like, I want to be able to give them like a good restream, right? Quality wise, like you don't really want to, while like especially like big names, right? Would certainly bring in like the viewers. You don't necessarily want, I guess, like that restream to be, I guess, like a bad experience or like a like you want something, you want the commentary, I guess in this case, to add some value. And so that was also one of, I guess, like, and this is certainly starting out one of my motivators to try and get better at commentary. But then also, like, I guess that would be like, this is kind of like the primary way that I can at least like show the people, that I care about, like some support. So
you don't see commentary as competition. It's not you versus like Drosy or Adirondack Rick or someone who's the best commentator out there.
I am 100% happy if there are no like to me, like, a commentary is totally co-op. If there happens to be like a title, I guess, for commentary, like I kind of don't really want a part of it. I mean, I think it's just always just sure. Like I'm not part of like the racing scene, I guess, so I don't really need like titles. I'm just very happy to be able to be, I would say, I guess, like relatively, received, all right. And then, but also like I said, my primary goal for commentary is just to go support the rudders. Because they're like, especially now, right? Not even like 2 years ago, everyone spends like so much time, right? They practice this game so much, put in so much time, and obviously, like, they've gotten like so much better. But it's like I feel like that type of like dedication and talent, hopefully can actually be showcased. And if I can help do that, then I will 100% go for that.
Yeah. Did you have experience doing any sort of commentary, maybe like in high school basketball games or some other video game or anything?
Nope.
It was all your.
This is where I started.
Right into the fray.
Yep.
Nice.
This is where I started.
And have you enjoyed it? Do you love doing commentary?
I will say that I really like the experience when I get to commentate for I guess like somebody I know. Granted, also it's a lot easier. Well, like I said, right, commentary is kind of like my way of trying to like, or my way of showing support. And yeah, so like that part of the thing is part of the enjoyment or the experience. But I mean, in general, especially when, I've gotten more experience with commentary, like especially first starting out, I was really nervous. That part, I guess I needed to just get through. But like, yeah, in general now, it's just, especially you can have a conversation with, someone, like a co-com that's very enjoyable, right? It's just a good time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so definitely enjoyed it more once I, got past the initial, the initial hump, I guess.
Do you feel like you had mentors as far as commentary goes? Was there people that kind of helped you along or showed you the way or taught you, or who are some of your favorite people that you were listening to that you kind of wanted to maybe emulate or take something from?
Yeah. So I'm going to feel really bad if I leave people out. So big disclaimer.
Don't worry. If your name's not mentioned, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you weren't good enough. That's all.
No.
I
feel so bad. So let me at least like say, that I do thank all of like the people who like probably my first, 50 to 100 commentator parts. I'm sorry, I was such a hot mess. Thank you so much for sticking with me because it could have been some pretty bad. But I will say that there were probably 2 or 3 people I think that right now, I guess, like kind of like initially stood out. So one was, especially during the Spoiler tournament, right? So I mentioned, right, I got a comm newbies role, right? So they tried to pair me with, with like some more veteran commentators, and so early on, right, like Nihon Tiger. So my first 3 commentator partners were Nihon Tiger, Drosy, and Kern, and so I mean they gave me like a lot of like great advice, and kind of like held me through the initial stuff. Yeah,
a really good trio to start out with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but so specifically, there was also another person like Hammer Bro. I'm not sure if, I guess what he exactly goes by, or what people may know him as, but I remember talking to him actually quite a bit. I commed with him, I think once, just because I think he saw I was maybe a bit, struggling. And so I think we got a commentary session in, maybe like 10th one or something like that. But then he gave me like, we would actually have like a few like post-match like postmortems, like feedback sessions. And basically I would just tell him like, I didn't think this went well, or like, I was a bit nervous for this one. And then, he was like super supportive and encouraging. Basically saying like this, and what was really great actually about this, about what his advice was he gave me some perspective, like from a third party, observer, saying like, like I was like, I thought this went terribly because, I didn't realize this was this or whatever. And, he's like, no, like that only, like you only think this because of, like XYZ. Or, right. Or he's like, oh, it's, this one was totally not your fault. Don't worry about it. Right. And like, these are the things that like, I just cannot realize. Right. Or like, I certainly can't see from my perspective. Mm-hmm. So he really like, I really wanted like that was like super, super helpful. Basically throughout like the entire Spoiler Log tournament. Mm-hmm. And then of course, coinciding with the Spoiler Log tournament was the 2020 Cross Keys tournament. Right. And whether or not Days had also, started out last year, or I don't remember when he started, but he was definitely a voice that stuck out as I was, like somebody that was a really, really good commentator, right? Certainly still does, a lot of good stuff today. And he was somehow he was an early Clearmouse supporter, I guess. Like we did a lot of Crossies commentary together, and like for some reason, like he seemed okay with, me tagging along as the co-com. And so like, I definitely learned a lot, just like basically by being his co-commentator, right? He was also somebody who was able to keep track of cross keys like really well, right? Obviously he's a very talented cross keys runner himself, but I think like also partially from there also help also give me like a lot of education on like cross keys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So only 2 people, huh?
I mean, there are just so many.
I know, I'm just messing with you. So who are some of your favorite partners to do commentary like for the main tournament, the recent main tournament?
The recent main tournament. There are just so many. I'm actually trying to think if there are any one particular person or people that actually have done a lot of commentary with this past one. Because I will say that typically speaking, for tournaments, I tend to like pick up, I guess, like 1 or 2 like tournament buddies, I guess, as commentators goes. So like
Dante, is it Dante this year?
Feels like you've done it. Dante, I have actually done a couple with Dante. I'm trying to think of how many I've done with him. It certainly has been, I guess, a good number, but I'm not even sure if there's like, I mean, but like, I definitely have favorite commentators. In fact, actually, so I write down all of the commentator sessions that I do. Wow. And so like, I have 23 sessions with Dazed since the start of I kind of commentated, and I have 20 sessions with AC. So certainly those are like quite high up there.
I feel like I listened to Dazed just talk about anything forever.
Yeah,
he's got like a soothing, amazing voice, and he's super good at the game, and he's very knowledgeable. So yeah, I understand wanting a partner with Dazed. What do you think makes a good commentator? When people ask you for advice, or I'm not sure if they have, but they should. What do you think? How do you commentate A Link to the Past? I mean, it's such a broad question, but like, what makes a good commentator for this game?
I'm thinking.
Is it just come natural? You just have the natural instinct, Clearmouse? Is that what it is?
No. Absolutely not. In fact, like I said, so there are definitely,
I want you to take some pride in who you are, because you're really good at this, and
no.
You're being too humble.
I have so many people, like I said, I have so many people who have also given me a lot of support and encouragement, to be able to do this. In fact, I think, especially, early on, right? Like AC and Korak and Gem, and Prime, like all those like guys, like basically have just kind of told me to, like stick with it. In much nicer words, right? They certainly, thought that like my commentary was worthwhile to listen to. And, certainly, that was really very encouraging for me to keep going. Like, and like
you've
I
done
said,
a lot of it, and you've worked to get better. Like you're not just, you are one of the best commentators out there. So there's it just happen. For some people it might, but it takes work and practice. So what is it? What? I know there's no magic ingredient or secret sauce, but what would your advice be if someone wants to get better at doing commentary for A Link to the Past specifically?
So, okay, there are probably a couple different aspects as to where they think they might want the most, like, where the areas of improvement can, like, I guess, like, come from. So I definitely know that there are some people who are better, like, conversationalists, versus some people who are, much more, I guess, like, analytical, thoughtful, and more of, like, they know, like, a lot of, the tech, the rules, the modes, a lot of, like, game knowledge, but may not necessarily be, like, that great to, I guess, like, communicate, it through. And so it might just, depend on, I guess, like, the person I would go look for. And then, it's like, if they could talk really well, maybe, you can help them out by maybe just trying to, learn more about the game itself, right? Like I said, and a lot of this stuff just comes from experience, right? Like, and like I said, I had, I think I was quite fortunate in that I had, a good number of like very, good teachers to some extent, where, I just basically like send their streams for, months. And then, whatever questions I had, they were just very, very nice to be able to, answer. And, and especially, coming from, so I think, early on, I was watching like Korak and Gem and AC, and, certainly, they are, they are probably, some of the best runners in the world, right? And so like their answers, advice, on tech and different like things like that, like helped out a ton for like the NMG tournament. I think for instance, not quite rando, but, like I watched like a ton of like Wayne and Ari. I mean, also, right? Like you just end up kind of like learning. And then like for me personally, the more game knowledge, or I guess like the more technical knowledge I have, or I'm confident in, that definitely conveys. Like that gives me more confidence when I go and say something. Yeah. Yeah.
I think being confident in the booth, whether you are actually confident or not, helps, right? Like fake it until you make it sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like you go into a booth, maybe you don't know everything, but kind of being confident in what you do know and going from there, I think can be a positive way to go about it, I think.
Yeah.
You and I have done quite a few commentaries together, and I feel like we have a good mix.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm a very good commentator though. Like I feel like I talk over I feel like I talk over people a lot, or I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, no, I think you're a great commentator, Fear. I mean, you talk about, some of the best commentators, in this community. Like, certainly don't sell yourself short for this.
All right, that's the show. That's why I brought you here. I just wanted to get that out of you. So you are studying the game outside of doing commentary, or is it just by watching the players that you like to play? Because you talked a little bit about NMG as well. You're not running NMG on the side, are you?
Absolutely not. That is 100% true. But I guess
there's a ton of knowledge that comes with NMG that's outside of Rando. So is it just from watching a lot of Ari and Matt and those guys running NMG?
Yeah. Well, right. So at least like when the NMG tournament happened last year, right? When I guess like when it just started out, like a lot of the people I think who ran Rando decided to join the tournament, and I was like, oh well, if they're all going to join the tournament, I guess I'm going to start learning NMG so I can maybe try and like commentate. Yeah, pretty much, right? So and I think Ari, I want to say at some point organize some sort of like tutorial session or something like that to kind of help people out. I know he did Up the Lane's PB bot review, which was, I don't remember what his time was at the time, but it was like super informative. And so like so you just watch, take some notes and hope that you you absorb it enough basically to at least do some commentary on.
Mm-hmm. So from an outside perspective of someone who's watching a lot of Rando, and what is your role in the main tournament, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right. So officially, I am a commentator moderator. So I guess like a comment. So I guess like how the main tournament does it. So there are 2 levels. It might be similar to League. There are like the admins who I guess decide all like the modes. They have the final say on everything. They do like maybe like the tournament organizational stuff. And then there are moderators, one for, I guess technically 3, for commentators, for trackers, and for restreamers. And then those are like the people who do more of like the day-to-day stuff, right? Like look at signups, ping for signups if, races need people, try and then just kind of like, assign people to races. And like deliver kind of like who gets which races and stuff like that. So like that is like so I'm part of I guess like the commentator side.
Is this your first year being a mod for that?
It is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Have you enjoyed the added responsibility of commentating? You just kind of come in, do your thing, and then you're out with the moderation and admin and leadership. It takes this hobby and turns it into somewhat of a job. Has it burnt you out at all? Are you enjoying the added leadership?
Let's say that it's still net positive as my experience. So I was actually a bit maybe more hesitant. So like So when I was first asked, I actually didn't know if I guess like would be a good fit for mod. Just because I guess I would, do more stuff like with actual commentary, as opposed to maybe like the more like organizational side of things. Yeah. But I mean, like in general though, it just seemed, pretty good. You try and, still, do, I guess, more of a part to try and make like the broadcast, run smoothly. And so, eventually like I did, agree to do this role, basically kind of see like to get the experience. And so like I said, overall it's been still very, it's been net positive. I will say that I can certainly understand why some people would not necessarily enjoy, I guess, like a general role as a moderator. It seems like there are lots of day-to-day tasks that moderators kind of like need in order to, need to do in order to kind of like get their ultimate goal ready, because ultimately like you want to be able to get people to sign up for like the restream so they can commentate, and then once they're assigned you need to like go tell them that like you have the assignment, and there seemed to be a lot of that process could have been can be still today made more efficient. There seems to be especially especially like when I was a volunteer, one of I think like the biggest turnoffs I guess from doing more commentary is like one is like I don't know whether or not I'm going to be assigned to a race let's say, 2 or 3 hours before the actual race, because then it's like, even though I saw, even though like there have been signups for this race for, last whatever, like 2-3 days or something like that, right? I don't want to be too hard on, like Torche, and I'm not trying to call anybody out or anything like that, but it's like, 24 hours, 18.
Let's call them out by name.
I don't even know. I don't remember who the moderators are at the time, but it's just like, it's like 24 hours, 18 hours. I don't mind being told in because that would be great. But it's like, if I don't know if I'm still going to do anything like an hour before the match, 2 hours before the match, it's like, I would like to know just so like I can go do something else. Right. And,
sure.
Like,
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and just like with the existing, I guess, like infrastructure, if there's just like no, unless somebody physically types out Discord, at Clearmouse, you are assigned to do, this, right? Like there's not, unless I can go to the page and like just constantly refresh, right? But then, like I said, there's just no notifications, and it's just very frustrating. So,
I think in the league season 3, the admin and mod team, we ended up taking the volunteers for granted in a way. Not completely. I'm not trying to throw the entire team under the bus, but it feels like we forgot that everyone is a volunteer in this community. You know what I mean? Nobody's getting paid for any of this. And so there's like this level of expectations for everyone, and we're all just trying to have a good time at the end of the day, right? We're all just trying to enjoy the game together. And I think in the league, specifically for season 3, that we forgot that a bit, and it kind of corrected itself when we realized that, and maybe even got some feedback on it for season 4, where it's just like, let's all have fun and make sure that this doesn't turn into too much of a job, right? An unpaid job. Because then that's kind of where the burnout can come, and you start resenting the game, and you quit playing the game and quit watching the game. And that's not the goal.
You want
to have a good time.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, like, I think it's just kind of like and I don't think this is really anyone's like at fault or anything like that, but it just kind of happens to be like these are kind of things that either people used to like either overlook, or it's just like just not necessarily aware. It's kind of like a like a gap in communication, right? It's just like I think and it's just like it's so long as it can be made slightly better, I think everyone's just in general very happy, right? So.
Yeah. Let me get your perspective on this, because there's some talk in the community from the racers, I think, that there's too much of an emphasis on restreams, that the modes for tournaments, let's say, I don't know, the main tournament this year, just use it as an example,
just a hypothetical, right?
Let's go hypothetically speaking, the main tournament modes aren't designed as the best modes to race competitively. And I've shared on this podcast that I wasn't a big fan of the modes, and so that kind of played a part in me not joining it. It wasn't the full thing, but it played a part for sure. There was talk of why no cross keys or why inverted, and like time and on restream was one of the factors that was listed. So let me get your perspective as a primary restreamer who does not the racing but the restreaming. What's your perspective on all of this? And there is no who's right and who's wrong, but do you think there is an aspect that we're getting away from what's best for runners and trying to like appease the viewers too much, or is that completely off base, you think?
No. So let me go on the record saying that I do believe currently that there are, I would say, saturation of restream races. So I would actually like to see fewer restreams. I guess maybe it'll be a little bit easier pressure just on like volunteer crews in general. But then I'm also like a very big believer of if you're going to put on a tournament, like restreams, like the tournament modes should, like the tournament experience for the runner should be highest priority. Restreams, I won't necessarily say it's like a second, it's not like an afterthought per se, but it should be something that should be worked around, like, I guess like the player's experience. Now, like if it means like, the player experience can get like 95%, as good, but mixed restreaming, a lot nicer, like, sure, we can, there's always kind of like a little bit of wiggle room, but
compromise,
in general, yeah. But I mean, in general, like I'm definitely like the tournament you run it is really just for, like the players themselves, right? Like certainly at least with how big the community has gotten. And I do think that restreaming races have played a very large role in that. like the restream viewer, interaction like experience certainly has would also like be positive, but ultimately at the end, I very much believe that it should be about the runners. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this year's tournament then, the 2022 main tournament that is currently going on? We're not to date this episode, but we're in the first stage of brackets. Is that right?
Yeah.
Kind of
we are
in between
currently
first and second stage. Yeah. Not to date this episode.
Yeah. No, we're definitely wrapping up the I guess like the first week of brackets. So round of 64, and then starting next week will be round of 32. So and again, I think, and you mentioned this before, because I'm not somebody who I guess like races competitively. I'm really just here, I guess, as part of like an observer. So a lot of like the racer competitive mindset, I basically just defer to whatever I guess like whatever I guess I hear from racers. I guess either I know well, or I respect their opinions. So
yeah.
So I am like I think disappointed, I guess, like to some extent, that there was actually no entrance. I guess that's kind of, well, I'm not really sure how much I guess my particular opinion would hold. Just because again, like
it
especially
holds just as much weight as anyone else's. Don't be fooled just because you're not playing your part. It holds weight. And I also want to say, like, just because I didn't like the modes or didn't care for the mode choices doesn't mean I think the admins are doing a bad job or bad people. I feel like there's always this distinction of like, oh, if you don't like it, you're attacking them or you're attacking this. The admins are great. They're doing the best that they can to make what they believe is the best tournament. So, but we can all have opinions on whether you think it's good or not. So have you enjoyed watching these modes? Because a lot of feedback that I've heard is the modes are better than people anticipated. That's kind of my takeaway so far from watching.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as you. I have nothing to do with this tournament.
Yeah. Well, right. So okay. So at least from a racer's perspective, or like, sorry, so watching, I guess like the general feedback kind of come in, like it does actually seem like at least the 5 modes that were set seem to be at least race viable. I do think that the change from just like plain inverted to I guess inverted keys, and I guess like starting fluid, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of I guess like ambivalent about, but I think at least the key sanity aspect certainly has really, I guess, like improved I guess like the race viability. Yeah. Like, yeah, mainly because it's like, yeah, you add in, and this like key sanity actually does make at least like the early game for inverted like not as, I think, rough, and it does add some sort of like, at least more of competitive play in terms of both like the rando routing, decision making, and execution, as opposed to like, well, you have a runner that maybe just gets like infinite blinded, right? Because they try to do burn a blind, right? And like on 3 hearts, and it's just like, well, you don't really want like somebody to lose to a race like that.
Yeah. Do you enjoy more the regular tournaments, or do you enjoy kind of the wackier modes like the Pog Champs and stuff like that?
That's actually a good question. I guess I don't know. I mean, so like I said, like my first real entrance, mode I think that I kind of got really hooked on was actually cross keys. So I guess like what do you consider that to be? Do you consider that to be more normal now versus like more wacky?
Yeah, I don't know. I think cross keys is probably still a little bit more wacky, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say because everything's evolved so much, like with door rando and pot lottery and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. That's right.
I don't know.
Man.
It's all changed now. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess
that's one where I'm never entering the Dorando. I say that now. It's been out for a while, but it's just too long. It's just too long. So.
Yeah, and especially I think like when I first found out about cross keys, right, it was like very new. So like that was actually like the wackiest, right? Like People are like, it's like initially it was like,
For sure.
let's shuffle all the items, and then it's like, let's shuffle all the keys and dungeon items as well. It's like, okay, like what else can we shuffle? Oh wait, let's shuffle entrances. It's like, oh okay, like how much worse could it, how much more randomization can we get, right? And then it's just like, well, now you have a doors, which now you're like doing basically dungeon, shuffle, and now you're shuffling pots, I guess, right?
I know. There's nothing left. There's nothing left to shuffle.
That's
Stuff
what
under
you
bushes,
think, right?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's I just feel like someone out there is just going to, they're going to find something else to shuffle. I will say though that like there is maybe like this more of like a curve, I guess. So it's like initially like, the more randomization, maybe like the better, especially from maybe some like the more, vanilla, ask, like your standard, your opens, type of thing. But then also, I guess if you shuffle too much, I think it just becomes like either like a less playable, like experience, or even like a less viewable experience. Because it's like, like you said earlier, right? Cross keys sometimes, especially early on, was kind of difficult to follow. I think door rando is also kind of, is also pretty, difficult to follow. And then I guess also like I'm not too big of a fan of like brick enemy health, chaos damage type of thing. Yeah, because it's like you kind of there's a reason why the game is somewhat balanced, I guess, in terms of gameplay. Right? It's like you're not intended to stand there to slash 30 times to try and kill an enemy to get to the next screen. Right? Like you can be difficult, right? But it's not intended to be like that way every single time. So
sure. Yeah. So your eventual takeover of Rando is almost imminent, as you're now a new bot lord as well. Tell me a little bit about your new bot and the quality of life it's brought to your role as a comm mod.
Okay, all right, okay, right. Okay, so I guess like for full disclosure, I actually have two bots. So one is specifically for commentator, for comm mod. But then I guess the other one is I wrote another bot for, I guess, like Mr. PogChamp. So the idea is that like it would automatically update your challenge results after two people finish. So, and then, and then there's like a form that you can fill out to say like, okay, I'm going to schedule my race at this time, and then it'll like create a Discord event for you. But that's Mr. PogChamp, all that stuff. Mainly, so people, can mostly automate themselves. It's supposed to be side tournament, right? It's supposed to be for fun, all that stuff. And so like that's more of, I guess, like a side bot. I don't even know if that's a thing. New
term, side bot.
But I guess like, so for the comm mod, again, like I said, like part of, I think, my motivation to try and write a bot, for this was came back to, one is, I think, without kind of having experienced like the actual, I guess, like day-to-day life job as a moderator, like it would have been very difficult for me to understand or like quantify or qualify, some of like the frustrations or like the inefficiencies of the system. And so like, especially if, for example, like I said, I think I mentioned this before, where, like even after you assign somebody to a race, right, you still have to go and ping them, right? But it's like, well, okay, so and then part of also this is just good communication, right? So because in Discord, you don't want to just say like, at Clearmouse, you're on for this race, right? But it's always, what is this race? Okay, is it between, okay, like, is it between like, okay, like Fear and Deity? Okay, so if it is, like, then, you kind of open yourself up to questions like, what time is the race, right? And then if you really put it, because like it's at 8:10 p.m. I was like, is that Eastern time? Is that my time? And it's like, there's just so many different, questions also, that, and it's like, if you really want to be, I guess, like you want to make a good, efficient message, right? To hopefully, kind of combat some of the questions that people might have. You would like to be able to put like the racers, the ideally local time, right? The channel that they're going to be assigned on, just so they know in this case, to expect like a ping, or they know to go to like the Discord and hop in the voice channel, right? And it's like, as a moderator, like it's a lot of work, right? To be able to, put that message, not only for like one race, but like for like 5 races, right? And then kind of like the other point, especially from a volunteer's perspective, it's like, I sign up for a race. on the back end, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling any, if I'm lifting, the curtain behind any of the back end stuff. But like, like there is no, I guess, like notification system, as in like, I sign up for a race. I don't know that someone is signed up for a race unless I could physically go to like the crew page and like refresh. Right. Yeah. And so like, and especially this is a bit more difficult like during the day of the race, where it's like people sign up, seeing that, oh, there's a whole, that we need a commentator for this race. And then it's like nobody knows about it. So then nobody can actually like go on even assign you the race. Right. And so it's like, it's just like these like inefficiencies where I think it's probably very frustrating both for the moderator and the volunteer, because the volunteer wants to know whether or not, they've assigned a race, but then also the moderators need to know that someone has signed up for the race. Right. So, yeah. So like there were just so many different like things where, I guess I experienced. And so I was like, you know what, like, surely there has to be some easier way for me to do this. Like, okay, so like what are bots really good at? Right. Bots are really good at doing one thing or the same thing over and over, right? For you. So like, for example, I want the bot to constantly refresh the page and then tell me if someone has signed up. Bots are really good at that, right? So instead of me going to the page and refreshing, the bot can do that. And then if someone signs up for, for a race that still needs a crew, then the bot can send you a Discord message on the back end saying, oh, okay, like so-and-so has signed up for this race. Here are all the, available, here are all the other signups, right, for example. And then, if someone actually is assigned to a race, we want, the ping should be, relatively soon, right? A minute later, let's say, right? Once we click the button on the back end, the bot can put together all of the information about the race because the bot knows about it, right? And they just basically send it right out, like in the Discord channel, and they can just ping, the person, right? So it's just like all of this type of like automation, I think, which is, make hopefully both volunteers' lives and moderators' lives easier.
It's freaking awesome. I think it's great. So when you take over for Sahabot, then
that part probably is not going to be. It's probably not going to happen. Synac has done like so much, for the players' experience, right? I think that was probably the focus. Like Sigma, right? For League, has done just so much. I think also for players, for the website, he has done. Man, I don't even know like what kind of things he's even done, for League. In terms of like back end support, because it just seems he's so much.
He started the League, like he originally created the League bot, which turned into Sahabot. Kind of, it was like the father of Sahabot, and it ended up getting retired.
Oh, wow!
So that was pretty cool, because I was a part of. I was able to bring Synac in before he was the bot overlord.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So that was pretty neat. I super lucked into that. That was super lucky because he's such an important part of the community. Like the growth of ALTDPR wouldn't have happened without Synac for sure.
Yes. I mean, like all of these kind of like bot lords, bot master, whatever roles they have. It's like I think that's just generally helped so much just for also like player-based growth, tournament growth, right? Like without kind of like all of this automation, there's just like kind of like no way that like you can't just keep getting more people, right? In order to help, because it's just not sustainable. And these are really good things for bots to do, because you don't like human time is expensive, bot times are not. Right, you just kind of need like the bot to exist in order to kind of do all the like the day-to-day or more like tedious stuff that you need to get done, but you just need to get done. Like it's like doing the same thing over and over. Like once you kind of figure out like what you need to do, a bot is great for that. You don't need a human because there's no real thinking involved, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, normally we wrap this up talking about tilt, but you're not a runner.
I'm not a runner. That is correct.
Do you have advice for us runners who do get tilted, me in particular?
Oh, fear. I mean, like I certainly do. I guess understand that it's very easy to to get tilted. I'm actually trying to think like what I would try and I guess like do in this situation, because I think it's very difficult to not get overwhelmed by emotions. So I think I remember it was like Dante who said like if when you first started running, he would like try to escape, and then he'd get hit by Green Guard and be like, "Oh no, that's it! Like I've lost the race." And it's just like that type of thing. I think is very difficult to overcome. But I think maybe also with just experience. Like one is it's kind of like perspective. Like one is like this particular mistake, in the grand scheme of things, honestly, probably won't matter, right? It just seems like it because, you're in a race and you don't know what's happening, right? So like the unknown is probably like the worst part. And honestly, like just watching all of the rando races. This is rando. You really don't know what's gonna happen, and it sounds a bit cliche. I guess to that extent.
Yeah.
But it's just like you just basically keep playing until you either see the dot done or you see the dot forfeit from your opponent, because like I mean your opponent could have died to try next, right? Or your opponent could have also just last located to basically like something very similar to you. I remember from like the main tournament, there were, highlights, lowlights, right? And,
right.
And it's just like, even the best runners, take a bit of a tumble at times. Sometimes you do kind of just get, out routed, out executed. But then again, I think that's just motivation for you to get better, right? Because like while it does, I think feel great to win and such, but it's like, like there's always going to be like room for improvement, right? And if you're kind of always winning, may actually be considered like, it's just like you might be losing some perspective, right? And then like without perspective, it's much more difficult to be able to deal with tilts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're such a positive person. That's one thing I love about you is that when I've been down, you've lifted me up, and I really appreciate that. You're such a light in this community, and I'm super glad that we got to spend time talking and chatting and learning who you are. And you know what? Next time,
some very kind words.
I'll just remember to have Clearmouse's dad come and take my controller from me.
I don't think he plays anymore for the record, but it was certainly some great times.
All right, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kira. This was fun. This was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Like it's the pleasure is always it's all mine. So
no, it's mine. It is mine. Yeah, Clearmouse really is the best. I loved having her on the show, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well. We'll be back next Monday with episode number 7. We're going to have Drosy on the show. That's a really good one. And then episode 8 is actually going to drop on the following Thursday. So it's going to be a 2-episode week next week with Drosy and Sigma. And Drosy and Sigma are league admins, current league admins, and were league admins with me in the past. And we talk a lot of league. So if you're interested in the history of the league and where the league is going, you definitely want to check out those episodes coming up. Episode 7, episode 8, Monday and Thursday of next week. Thank you all for listening. I really, really appreciate it. If you can, join our Discord. We're having fun over there. 216pod.com has links to the Discord. You can, of course, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/fearagent_, doing some more streaming over there. We're just having a good time playing this game, hanging out. I really hope everyone's been enjoying season 1. I've had a blast. Already lining up guests for season 2. If you'd like to share who you'd like to see on the show, you can join, again, the Discord with the link 216pod.com. So many people I want to talk to. If you're listening to this and a member of the community, at some point in one of these seasons, I'm going to want to reach out and talk to you because I want to talk to everyone. Community's awesome. Getting to know people in the community is awesome. And I'm having a lot of fun with the podcast. I hope you are as well. Again, thank you all so much for listening. I can't thank you enough. Come back next week for Drosy and Sigma on Thursday. See you next week.